Hi, Tracy here, also known as Mercy Tiara, with another episode of Find Your Mojo. Each episode gives you a prompt or a challenge to get your creative juices flowing and get you scrapping and documenting your memories. May marks the end of the first year of this series, and so what I decided to do for this month was take a look back at some of the prompts that I provided over the past 11 months and see if I could combine them into a page for you guys today. Then next month, we'll kick off a whole new year of Find Your Mojo with some brand new prompts to keep you scrapping and feeling inspired. Hi guys, Tracy here with another Find Your Mojo process video. This month is the 1-year anniversary for this series, Find Your Mojo with Mercy Tiara. And over the course of the year, I have created 11 process videos that explore different ways that you can jumpstart your creativity if you're feeling like you're in a bit of a rut. And so the playlist that includes all of these videos is linked in the information section below, as well as listed in a card in the top right-hand corner of your video. So if you'd like to check out some of the other videos in this series, please go ahead and check out that playlist. Today, I'm going to be doing a bit of a throwback episode in which I plan to revisit some of the other ideas for jumpstarting your mojo all together in one video. And so I'm going to create one layout that uses, I'm probably not going to be able to do all of them just because some of them are contradictory to one another. So for example, there's one of the prompts was to go monochromatic, and then one of the other prompts was to use a color scheme from your photo, and my photo is not color chromatic or monochromatic, so I'm not going to be able to incorporate all of them, but we're going to see how many of the Find Your Mojo prompts I can incorporate into one single layout. I am going to use a sketch, which was one of the earliest prompts. I've picked out this awesome sketch from Page Maps that was on page 29 of the spring 2017 edition. So this is the current edition of the magazine. And this is an example of one of the layouts with this sketch. I've just printed up the sketch right here, and I'll leave it up in the top, I think I'm going to leave it up in the top right-hand corner today. It'll be somewhere on my screen as I scrap anyways today. So I'm going to be starting with that, and I'm also going to use a photo strip, which is another one of the earlier prompts. So these are 3 photos of my daughters posing outside of a candy store on the Halifax waterfront, and it was really windy that day, and so I had to take 3 shots to get a nice one, and I thought I would incorporate all of these. I talked about using a photo strip and how a photo strip can really help to tell a story, and also it can also help to show either movement or lack of movement, and I talked about those principles in the video that is specific to using a photo strip. So I'm going to use these in a horizontal photo strip today, and this horizontal photo strip is going to replace this grid right here. Using a grid was another one of the Find Your Mojo prompts, and so if you had more photos, you could certainly arrange your photos into a grid like this. I'm going to let my embellishments guide me today. I have lots and lots of really fun embellishments to work with today. I have the Simple Stories Faith collection, and look at all the embellishments I have for this collection. It's like these Simple Stories have some of the best embellishments out there. I am so in love with all of these different options. You've got brads, you've got clear stickers, you've got die cuts, you've got these clips that are just awesome, some enamel dots, and then these epoxy clips that are also really, really cute. There's 2 different kinds of washi tape in this collection. Some of these little cards for doing some pocket pages. And then we've got chipboard, which I absolutely love chipboard, and some other stickers. Oh, there are actually 3 different kinds of washi tape with this collection. So I am going to be having my embellishments guide me in this way, because some of these embellishments are not really relevant to the story I'm trying to tell. Some of them, these embellishments are very, very specific to faith-based scrapbooking, And I am not doing faith-based scrapbooking today. I'm just scrapbooking a regular memory. And so I'm probably not going to want to use some of the more themed embellishments here. So I am going to pick out some of the more neutrally themed embellishments and have them guide me as far as how I'm going to embellish this page. One of the other prompts was to start with a title, and I'm not entirely sure what my title is going to be, but we'll see if I can start with one. Let your photos guide your color scheme was another one of the prompts, and I do plan to pick up on the green as well as the pink in this photo. Those are the two most prominent colors in this photo, with a little hint of yellow on the sign. And so those are all of the prompts that I'm going to use together today to scrapbook these photos. So I'm going to put you on fast forward now and we'll see where this one takes us. So I start by rolling up my sleeves because I'm going to be getting scrappy today. I have decided to start by opening up the paper, and there's that sketch for you up in the top left-hand corner. I'm just having a look at the papers, and right away this pattern paper caught my eye because the Halifax waterfront has a lot of weathered boardwalk, wood plank sidewalks, I guess. And so, in fact, you can see one of them right in the photo. And so I thought that that weathered wood background was really nice. And then I also really like the feather because there are lots of seagulls around the waterfront and there's often feathers lying around on the boardwalk. So at first I thought I would use the feather, and you'll see me change my mind on that. So now I just cut these down to 6 by 12, and then I realized I wanted to use that mint green striped paper as a mat around the whole layout. So I just had to cut a half of an inch off of the width of that one and a 1/4 of an inch off the length. And so each of those end up being 6 1/4 by 11.5 inches, each of those two strips. And it occurred to me that feather pattern paper is kind of too distracting, so I decided to go with this floral print instead. I thought for a second there I might use both, but I'm going to use the floral print instead of the feathers, just because it's a tighter print. It's equally busy, I guess. Like still has lots of color in it, but it's just a little bit more spread out and doesn't distract quite so much from the images in the photos. Now I am going to sort of start with a title. That was one of those prompts that I'm trying to use. So I wanted to get my title done early, and because of that. And so I thought I would use the chipboard word love and incorporate it into my title. And I'm thinking I'd like to call this one Love This City, because we do really love our city quite a lot. And so I went to my stash to grab these stickers. I thought I was looking for something neutral, and I thought right away gray would look nice with that wood pattern paper. And so these are called Print Shop. They're American Crafts stickers. And there we go. So I have love, and then I will put this with a smaller font, and then city. And I'm just having a look at some of the embellishments because I want to make this title on a kind of give it a home to live on. And you'll see that in the sketch, it's on a speech bubble. And I thought I might replace it with a tag, or maybe I'll do a speech bubble. But I took a look at that set of kind of pocket items that you can use for like Project Life or pocket scrapbooking. It's called a snap pack, and there are a bunch of square pieces of pattern paper in that. So I grabbed that yellow bokeh paper, and I thought I would either die cut a tag or maybe a speech bubble. Now I wanted the word with, or I mean this, to be something different than the other two. And so, and also for it to be smaller. So these mini market sticky keys, the color is called Playtime, or I guess the set is called Playtime, provided a little bit more contrast with those blocky letters and then the script font. So I wanted a third thing. I didn't want it to be either a script or a block letter. So these sticky keys provided a third element for my title. And now I'm just taking my pink Sharpie marker and I'm outlining around the outside edges of this script font that says the word love. It's like a brush script. And I'm doing that because I want this word love to look more pink than peach. So as it was, the watercolor effect on that word is very peachy looking, and I just wanted to bring out the pink because, again, I am using the colors in my photo as inspiration for this layout, and so this collection does have some pink in it, but it has quite a lot of peach, and so adding the pink outlining just makes that title a little bit more pinky. And now I'm doing the same thing here. I'm just outlining the block letters, the gray block letters, with a green Sharpie marker. It's a finer point marker than the pink one that I used. And I use Sharpie markers because they are slick surface markers and they won't smudge on the slick surface of those stickers. And here I am deciding to use a speech bubble die instead of a tag die, which was my original thought. So I'm sticking a little bit more close to the sketch here by using the speech bubble, although I am using an oval speech bubble instead of a square one. And I just used my little Cuddle Kids die cut machine. I just used that as a desktop die cut machine. And I realized after I ran it through my machine that this makes the speech bubble point the wrong way. And so I'm just going to flip this whole sketch over and use the revert, kind of, I guess, the flipped horizontal, or is it that a flipped vertical? Anyhow, I'm flipping the whole thing around. And I'm just going to layer this title on top of the speech bubble. I did outline the speech bubble first with my gray Chamel American Crafts marker, which is my favorite gray marker that I have. I love it. And that's looking a little bit too subtle. So I think I'm going to go back and add some darker outlining to that. But first I'll get all of the letters on it. So there's my title that says Love This City. I'm just putting the backing back on that word love so that it doesn't stick to everything. And then I'm just going to take my Sharpie pen, which is different than the Sharpie marker. So the Sharpie marker is a slick surface marker, which tends to bleed out on porous surfaces like regular paper. And so I just switched to the Sharpie pen for that because it is not a slick surface marker. And so it keeps its fineness as you outline. It doesn't kind of bleed into the paper the same way that a Sharpie marker would. So that gives me a nice bold black outline around that speech bubble and just gives it a little bit more emphasis. And you'll see as I go along that I'm going to struggle with having that speech bubble have some emphasis, and I'm going to do another something in a little while about that. So here I am just flirting with the idea of turning the whole background on its head. And then I decided that no, even though at first I was thinking I'd want that plank pattern paper to be on the bottom because it's what we walk on when we're down on the waterfront. But I just aesthetically, I preferred the look of it up above because that floral paper has a lot more busyness to it. I thought about lining up these photos so that they're all even and lined up with each other. I ran out of adhesive. I'm using Scrapbook adhesive today, which is a 3L product. I used the Easy Dots, and so I just had to refill those. I decided to make this photo strip, have the photos be kind of slightly askew from one another. I just really like the casual look that gives this layout, and where this layout has so much structure going on with the straight lines and the matting and the two background papers that are approximately 6 by 12 kind of lining up with one another. I thought that having my photos be not so lined up would just add to the casual nature of this layout, which I really wanted it to look quite casual because it was a kind of a casual day in the city. So here I am again struggling with emphasizing this speech bubble. So what I'm deciding to do here is to actually matte the speech bubble on this gray paper that I'm using to matte the photos with. That will help tie the speech bubble into the photos and make it look more integrated and less like it's kind of floating up there on its own on that background paper, the wood plank background paper. And it just gives it a little bit more weight and emphasis and as I said, ties it into the photos. So there I am just matting that, and I had to trim it off a little bit just so that it looked a little bit better where the matte disappears under the word love. So I like that better. It does keep that speech bubble from disappearing into the wood plank paper behind it. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar enough in tone. So now I'm just taking out my little half-size sewing machine. The one that I have is a Kenmore. I get a lot of questions about it. I think that the Kenmore is hard to find, but the Genome, either the Sew Mini is the old model of it, and the newer model is called the Genome New Home Portable Sewing Machine. And it's a great little sewing machine because you can I leave the plugs plugged into the wall and like into the electrical outlet. And then every time I use it, I just have to pull the cords up from underneath where I sit and attach them. You'll see how the cords are attached to the side of it. You'll see it. I'll use it again and you'll get to see it from a different angle. But anyhow, I just go all the way around the outside. I decided to go stitch around the outside of this layout twice. That gives it an even more casual look. And I am using black thread today, and that just adds to the contrast. If I had used white stitching, it would have added a really nice subtle detail, but it wouldn't have added the contrast that I'm looking for here. So then when I'm done, I just unplug the cords, let them kind of fall back down onto the floor below where I work, and put the sewing machine away. And it's a really great storage solution for me, is to just keep the sewing machine off in the wings of my works, in the wing area of my work surface. So I decided to use the washi tape to span between where those two papers meet, and then I also accented it with that sticker. I wasn't too concerned with the fact that it's a navy blue sticker and that is the only navy blue, because that gray that I used is a bluish gray, so I think it works okay. And that sticker is from the sticker set. All of this is from the Faith collection from Simple Stories. And now this anchor is a perfect embellishment for this layout because we are a port city and there's a big naval presence here. And so I thought I would include an anchor. I much prefer the anchor over by the Y instead of over by the C in city, but there's more room for it over by the sea, so I'm tempted to put it over by the sea, but I like how it, I'm going to end up putting it by the Y because I like how I can kind of make it look like it's hanging off of the Y. There. And to me, it seems like an anchor belongs on the back of something rather than on the front of something. I think the anchor goes on the back of a ship. I don't know. I don't know much about ships. Despite living in Halifax, I don't know much about ships. So I just used my Stampin' Up! Paper piercing tool to pierce a hole and put that brad in. That anchor is from a set of brads from the same collection. And now I'm just looking through the die cuts, looking for some embellishments to put down here on the bottom left-hand corner of my layout, which is where I'm going to put some journaling. So I went back into that snap pack of embellishments and grabbed a journaling card, a 3x4 journaling card, and then one of the other 3x4 journaling cards had that red label that you just saw me cut off. I looked through the rest of them to see if there was anything else I might want to layer here, and I decided against it. I'm going to pull out a couple of other embellishments from the die cut set here. The light bulb, I really love light bulbs these days, and the feather is really cute, and as I mentioned, the feather fits with the theme of the story that I'm trying to tell here. And so some more chipboard feathers, and I'm just taking out a couple of other embellishments and putting them up in the other cluster, and I'm not deciding where they'll go. So you'll see me do that. I know that I wasn't zoomed out when I did that, but you'll see those in a second. I didn't place them, I just am putting them up in the general area. I will zoom out shortly. There we go. So I just pulled out the balloons. I didn't place them. I thought I'd maybe have them look like they're kind of coming out behind the photo. I'm having a look at these clips, but I'm not going to use them. And those clips, but I'm also not going to use them. And back to the brads. I'm basically looking for something to put in front here, in front of the word this and city, and under the L. And that first brad was looking a little too bland, so then I decided maybe I'll use this brad that has some flowers attached to it. And then I thought, no, I'm going to use this brad because it brings in some of that mint and white striped pattern that's on the background, like that's on the matting of this layout. And I really like bringing the mat into the layout whenever I can. I don't always do that. So watch, see, I'm just going to pull up the cords and plug them in. And that's easy peasy way to use this sewing machine. It is so light, I can literally lift it with one hand. I love this sewing machine. And also I am stitching through sticker here, which has adhesive on it. And so it's not a great idea to sew through adhesive. I do it anyways, and I haven't had any major problems. I think you might have to clean your machine a little bit more often. I don't clean mine often anyways. But you know, if you have a really high-end fancy sewing machine, I would definitely not recommend that you sew through adhesive. And so just keep that in mind. It's another good reason to have a smaller sewing machine that's just dedicated to scrapbooking if you are a sewer, just so that you can not have to worry about changing your needles very often and ruining your machine with the adhesive and the glue. So you saw me just use some Stampin' Dimensionals there to pop up my photo strip. And one thing that I've decided to do, because my photo strip fills up so much of the horizontal space on this layout, is that, see up in the sketch where there's a tag with a subtitle and it's beside the photo grid, because I'm using a photo strip that is wider, I am moving that just underneath of the photos. So it is also flipped horizontally. So it might be a little bit more difficult to envision that, but basically I'm just moving that tag, which is not a tag for me, it's a journaling piece, and slipping it underneath of my photo strip instead of putting it over on what would have been the left-hand side. It is still over towards the left, so it provides that diagonal line that I'm looking for across this layout. I also matted the journaling piece there, that pink strip, not strip, but that little pink box. I cut it down and I matted it with the same gray paper. I'm just using my paper piercer here to attach this brad. And never worry if you do attach a brad in the wrong place. Usually brads are big enough that they allow for a little bit of leeway. So I just repunched the hole and shifted it over a little bit, and the brad is big enough that it covers the first hole. I misplaced that balloon embellishment there. It's just a little bit too, it's kind of at an awkward place there. I'm going to shift it down in a minute. I added some enamel dots just for a little bit of interest to those balloons. I love adding enamel dots to balloons. While I was at it, I added a red one to the heart on the brad, and now tucking it under there, it just looks a little bit more natural, like the balloons are just naturally floating up from behind the photos. There, now I'm going to start assembling this bottom embellishment cluster. And before I go too far, I'm going to go ahead and do my journaling before this gets too lumpy and with too many things layered on top of it. Grabbing my layout here so I can read you the journaling. It says, although the waterfront is under construction, it's still fun to visit all our favorite spots on a windy, warm spring day. And I'm just going to outline that. I did that journaling with my Sharpie pen, which I talked about earlier in this process. And now I'm just going to stick this label that I cut out down underneath. And I'm going to shift things around a little bit as I decide where I want things to land. I want that light bulb to span the space between the journaling card and that blue feather, or I guess it's a green feather. And now I have to add a little dimensional adhesive to hold that light bulb up. And then these little feathers down here just kind of balance off with the light bulb up in the top corner of that journaling piece. And now I'm just figuring out the date of this photo. Checked my computer for the photo stream to see the date. And now I'm using just my regular Chamel journal date stamp. It doesn't have a phrase. And I'm just stamping multiple stamps of the date right beside the A sender in the letter L in the word love. And that just fills in that space with a little something. And I added the chipboard flower over to the side of the anchor. That puts a chipboard flower in each of my 3 embellishment clusters. And I am not quite finished yet. I just picked up these stickers and noticed these phrases that I thought were really cute and just added that extra final touch. So one says perfect, one says do all things in love, and the other says inspire higher. Oh, the other one said don't forget, but it was navy blue and it was noticeably different than anything else on the page, so I just switched it out for inspire higher because inspire higher was a light colored one. So they're all three of the word stickers are on the same beigey whitish kind of background, so they all tie in and it provides repetition. So the repetition that I have from cluster to cluster is the chipboard flower and the word sticker. So here are some of the close-ups, and you will get to see some close-up photos at the end of this layout as well. So thank you so much for coming along with me on this kind of journey into the past year of Find Your Mojo prompts. I had a really fun time revisiting some of these Find Your Mojo inspiration prompts. The nice thing about inspiration is that you can keep going back to the same sources of inspiration again and again. You can use sketches many times, and you can even use the same sketch over and over, although I didn't here. And some of the ideas that we've provided over the past year, you can certainly revisit over and over again in different new ways to create new pages for your albums. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope that you have a really great scrappy week and month and year. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.